I'm out the door. I ain't gonna lie to you. If I'm Drake, I'm out the door. I ain't
I I think anybody would, but I mean, that's the thing though. If he was offered $5 million to leave and he stayed, how much money was he offered to stay?
True.
Many are saying, as I mentioned earlier, that this is going to be a trend that changes the college football landscape. All right, so moving on to the transfer portal and the NIL, which is a bit chaotic right now. So this year has seen a record number of athletes entering the transfer portal and attempting to leave their respective schools, and transfer to another school to play immediately. The transfer portal and the NIL have made it a lot easier to make for athletes to make the decision to leave school and even potentially get more money for playing at these new schools. So, Sticks, let's talk about the transfer portal and that has seemingly taken over college football. I know you want me to give a little bit of background on what the transfer portal is and the
Mm-hmm.
NIL, so I can speak to that to update you on it or how you want to handle it.
So for what I do know, the transfer portal was created as a compliance tool
Hmm.
and this is I got this off of ESPN.com to
Yep.
systematically manage the transfer process from start to finish, and to add a little bit more transparency to the process among schools and empower student athletes to make known their desire to consider other programs. I believe the transfer portal is amazing. I believe it's amazing.
Hmm.
I don't have a lot of background in it as far as, knowing exactly how it works and, but I do understand why a lot of the student athletes would do it, because I'm looking at a Fox Sports ad, right? I'm looking at something on Fox Sports right now where it says this is breaking down a lot of like profile players that went to different universities and are now transferring just as of December to other universities to get a better opportunity or to get more exposure, to possibly go professional, like we were talking about in the last segment. So
Yep.
this is 115 people from December 1st to yesterday that have entered the transfer portal and have either already decided what school they're going to or are still waiting for schools to give them some attention and give them some scholarship money or whatever the case may be. So break it down for me, D'Lo, about the transfer portal. Give me a little bit more insight on that.
Yep. Yeah, so the transfer portal was introduced in 2018, and what it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a way to have smoother transaction, um, for athletes that wanted to transfer. Because before the transfer portal, athlete had to ask the coach if they could transfer. The coach
Mm-hmm.
could say yay or nay. From there, they would go to their compliance officer. The compliance officer would then, you know, reach out to any school that they had interest in going to. The schools, if they had interest in that player coming to their school, they would send some type of questionnaire. I'm not quite sure what the questions entail, but the
Mm-hmm.
compliance officer would have to fill those out, and then from there, the schools can communicate with that respective player on visiting their school and potentially coming to their school. Well, with the transfer portal, all the player had to do was then go to the compliance officer, say, I want to enter the transfer portal. The compliance officer would enter their information into the transfer portal, which is just a website that is not
Mm-hmm.
public, but coaches and administrators can look at. And from there, the schools can look at it. They can, you know, filter it based off of certain criteria, division, sport, so on and so forth, and see
Mm-hmm.
who's in there. Contact those individuals directly, whether it be by email. I think it's just email initially, but once they exchange emails, then they can get their phone number and communicate that way. Now, the flip side of it is, with the transfer portal, I don't know if I said this. I can't remember if I said it or not. The player now does not have to go to the coach. He can just go straight to the compliance officer.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
compliance officer say, "I want to enter the transfer portal." But if the coaching staff finds out and they don't necessarily agree with it, and let's say the player decides ultimately not to take his name out of the transfer portal, now the school that he wanted to leave has the power to say, well, we're going to take your scholarship. So
Right. And
it's
what I would assume, I don't mean to cut you off. What I would assume is
mhm.
that this player that wants to go into the portal would at least seek some advice from his coaching staff or from his advisor or somebody of that nature to be able to say, okay, should I do this? What is the pros and cons? If I do decide to go through the portal and see if I can find a better opportunity for myself, will I lose my scholarship? Is that an opportunity? Is that
Well,
a con
yeah,
to
well
it?
that's
You know
the
what I'm saying? So I would assume that they would do that. You know?
Well, that's the thing is there now with the transfer portal and the ability of you getting to another school so easily, and with the
Hmm.
ability of you potentially even getting to a better school,
Hmm.
the thing that's going around college football now in the college football circles is it's hard for coaches to really discipline players. It's hard for them if you have a top recruit or whatever the case may be. If you have him and he's not playing, it's hard for you to not play him or use that as a disciplinary reason because they'll just enter the transfer portal. And I say that because you
Hmm.
said the player that's wanting to transfer may seeks guidance on it.
Hmm.
Oftentimes that's not the case. They're just saying, well, all right,
Oh yeah.
I'm not seeing what I want right now.
Hmm.
I don't care what you talking about. I want to transfer. But there's a couple of things that also changed recently that has made the transfer portal even more prominent and promising for players. So when the
Hmm.
rule was created, initially only graduate players could leave that school and play at a different school immediately. But
Okay.
April 2021, that rule changed. So
Hmm.
if it's your first time transferring, you can go to another school no matter if you're going up or down. So up means you're going from Division 2, Division 3 to Division 1,
Hmm.
and down meaning you're going from a higher division to a lower division or across a division.
Because it used to
So
be if you go down, you didn't have to sit out, but if you go down, you do have to sit out, but if you go up, you don't, right? That's how it
No,
used to
no,
be,
no.
right?
So
It was
no,
backwards
so if you yeah, backwards. If you go down, you could play immediately. If you go
immediately.
up, you could not. You had to
Gotcha.
sit
Yeah.
out a
Okay.
year. And if
Okay.
you like, let's just say um across the division. So if I was staying in Division 1, but I
Hmm.
was going from let's say NC State to Nevada or something like that, or
Hmm.
whatever the case may be, I had to sit out a year unless I got a waiver from the NCAA saying, okay, due to this circumstance, you are able to transfer and play immediately. And immediately means playing the next year. So if I was to
Hmm.
transfer mid-season, I couldn't play in that season. I had to wait till the next season to play.
Right. Right. Right.
But April 2021 changed that. So from there, with that ruling, you could play immediately no matter where you were going. If it was your first time transferring. Now after that, you had to follow the old rules that we just mentioned.
Hmm.
But then also what followed that April 2021 ruling was the NIL. And so this is why
Hmm.
this is another aspect of the transfer portal that's really like changing the landscape of college football.
Okay.
And we talked about this in episode 3 of
Yeah.
our
With Mikey Wiggins.
podcast,
Yep.
right? About talking about the NIL and how players are now able to make money. And it was intended to be advertising dollars, but what's really happening is boosters are pooling together money and enticing players to come over. And so this is why the transfer portal is starting to get a little chaotic. It's a trend right now where players are balling out at the school that they signed up to play for, so that their
Hmm.
scholarship that they signed to, and they're then entering the transfer portal and trying to get money to play at either a bigger school or a school that where their boosters have deep pockets and
Hmm.
are telling them to come. Um, Many are saying, as I mentioned earlier, that this is going to be a trend that changes the college football landscape. So, in fact, today on his podcast, Slow News Day, Kevin
Hmm.
Clark says the recruiting class from high school establishes your floor. The portal is going to be your ceiling. So, what he meant by that was your recruits from high school are going to be your baseline, your pretty much your foundation for your respective teams, whether that's football, basketball. You're seeing the transfer portal be heavily talked about in football because football is one of the only sports that has a 3-year mandate for you to
Mm-hmm.
enter the professionals, whereas every other league, there's either no age limit or it's like
It's a
19,
1 year
which
at
is
least. Yeah.
right.
Which
It's
is like
1 year.
1 year.
So
Mm-hmm.
right. So players don't really have to worry about transferring back and forth unless they're not that good. They're not good
Mm-hmm.
enough to be in the professional ranks. But then Kevin goes on to say that he believes that more star players are going to go from team to team and they are going to be um, enticed by boosters to go play for $1 million contracts. I wholeheartedly believe this is going to be the case, and this is the new situation. This is um, the new. What am I trying to say here? It's going to be the new area of football that we're sitting in
It's
right
gonna be
now.
the new normal.
Case
Yeah,
in,
it's gonna be the new normal.
it's going to be the new normal for football, for the NCAA in general,
Mm-hmm.
because a great example of that would be just recently, as early as this month, the UNC quarterback Drake May, who decided to
Mm-hmm.
stay, was offered. I believe it's reported that he was offered up to $5 million to go to another university, and he
I'm
decided
out
to
the
stay.
door. I ain't gonna lie to you. If I'm Drake, I'm out the door. I ain't gonna.
I I think anybody would, but I mean, that's the thing though. If he was offered $5 million to stay, I mean to leave, and he stayed, how much money was he offered to stay?
True. That's a good point. That's a good point. I was about
You
to
know
say
what I
that
mean?
too. He probably was
So
offered more than 5 mil to stay for sure. For sure.
exactly. So,
Right.
um, I mean, we don't know if he was
Yeah.
actually offered any money or not, but what we do know is Mac Brown did say that he did confirm that he was offered a large sum of money to leave. He didn't name the individual university
Mm-hmm.
that offered that money, but he did confirm that.
Sheesh.
I just floated out the opportunity. I just floated out the possibility that he was probably offered more money to stay.
Mm-hmm.
That has not been confirmed or not, but you can only
Okay. Only
question that, right?
imagine. Right.
You
If
can
he
only
stayed,
imagine
he
and speculate that.
come on. Exactly.
Right. So, but that's why I decided that this would be a good topic to talk about, is because for so long the NCAA was telling players, one, you couldn't transfer and play right away.
Mm-hmm.
They frowned upon that because then you're looking at transactions. I said the word transactions earlier for on purpose. You're looking at
Mm-hmm.
transactions occurring. You're looking at players constantly going from school to school, and that's hard for coaches to manage those rosters. And then two, they also told players that they couldn't make money. So now you have everything that they said that they didn't want is going on. I think college football has changed forever.
I think it has too,
What are your
man.
thoughts?
And you kind of look at it, man. You look at the Spencer Rattlers of the world. You look at the Baker Mayfields of the world. Those guys who utilize the transfer portal to get to, and whenever the line says better schools, it means better sports program. Just in case anybody gets pissed off about saying this school ain't better than my school or whatever.
Right, right,
But
right. 100%. Glad you
but
cleared that up.
yeah, so they're just trying to get to these student athletes who are high, 3, 4, 5 star recruits come out of high school. They're trying to figure out how can they, number one, maximize their name, image, and likeness, and number two,
Hmm.
maximize their opportunity to get to their big dream, which we talked about last segment, of getting to the NFL or the NBA or the MLB or however they want to, whichever dream that they have. So the transfer portal allows them to say, okay, cool. I went to FAMU. I balled out at FAMU. Let me see if I have an opportunity. As a receiver, I got 100 catches, 1,000 yards at FAMU. Let me see if Florida State might say, okay, damn, he balled out at FAMU. Let's give him an opportunity here with a
Hmm.
full scholarship and offer him his name, image, and likeness to be worth about $2 million. And that's what these kids are looking for now. Now that they have these opportunities to maximize their NIL, and possibly get to a stage where, of course, FAMU is an illustrious HBCU and they have a good program, but Florida State, the prestige of that university and the actual notoriety that it has could get him way more looks as far as the NFL is concerned anyway, especially if he gonna ball
Yep.
out the same way he balled out at FAMU. So
Hmm.
it just gives them opportunity. It's not taking any opportunity away from them. It's giving them these options to say, damn, I can take advantage of this and possibly reach the dream that I've always had as a kid. So
Yep.
I like the transfer portal. What the thing that you talked to, when we were planning this throughout the week, you talked about your boy from Wake Forest. And
Yep.
he
Yep.
played 4 seasons, right? If I'm not mistaken, 4 seasons
Yep.
at Wake Forest, and now he's gonna take that go utilize the transfer portal to take that 5th season to go to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't make sense, but I guess in the sense of what I just said about the NIL and utilizing it to reach their dreams, I guess it makes sense to him. But how do you like what kind of sense do you make of his decision?
I don't. I mean, I can understand
And he was
going to
balling at
Notre
Wake
Dame.
Forest. He was doing his
Yeah,
thing, you know, because
yeah.
it's a
So
little bit of a more prestigious program, but still, like,
I
come on,
can,
bro.
yeah. So the thing that I can understand is him going to Notre Dame. We're talking about Notre Dame, the Notre Dame football.
Mm-hmm.
To be a part of that program, to have your name attached to that type of program, you know, to me holds a high place in the world of football. If you
Agreed.
can, no matter where Notre Dame is in their program as far as wins and losses, having your name attached to Notre Dame is going to put you at a different pedestal than somebody at Wake Forest. My
Mm-hmm.
school, I love it, but no offense to them, but it's not Notre Dame.
It's not Notre Dame, right?
Where I have a issue with it is he is the all-time leading uh he's the all-time leader of touchdown passes,
Mm-hmm. I think I
balling
read that he
at
was
Wake Forest.
also all time leader of actual passing yards.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
he
he's
he
the
was
leading
doing his
passer. He's
thing at
broken a
Wake
lot of
Forest.
records. Yeah, right.
He broke many records at Wake Forest, right? And for the ACC, right?
Mm-hmm.
His name was in the at one point. He ended the year not so great. The team ended the year not so great, but to
Mm-hmm.
start the year and up to like game 7 or 8, he was the top. And talks of being the top, one of the top 5, top 3 quarterbacks to come off the board. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like he didn't do his thing. But what I think happened is towards the end of the year, he didn't play as well as he should have,
Okay.
because Wake Forest is a different type of offense. They're RPO based offense,
Mm-hmm.
and while the RPO, and we don't want to get too much into depths of the actual sport of football, while RPO is starting to see a lot more of action in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
most NFL teams want to see you run either a truly spread type offense, or a traditional under center offense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the first quarterback to have success at Wake Forest and decide to leave to go to a different school. It's just the amount of stats that he put up is kind of surprising. I wish
Right.
him the best, but it for the in talks of the transfer portal, to me is kind of strange for a kid like that to have his name. Because I mean, for me, okay, let me just say what I want to say.
Go do your thing.
I think he should just go to the NFL, put his name in the NFL to be drafted, rather than going to Notre Dame. Because I mean, while you do have the ability to go to a program like Notre Dame
Mm-hmm.
and update your status, knock on wood, you also have the ability to have something else more detrimental happen, to where
For sure.
that dream of you going to the NFL is taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like, while the transfer portal, I'm for the transfer portal. I'm for players making money in college sports now, because for so long we have been taken advantage of,
Mm-hmm.
and watch people that coach us make all of this money, watch schools make all this money, but the product that people are coming to see gets nothing but a sandwich, some meals, room and board, and a couple of clothes. Okay,
Facts.
that's great, but
Right.
can I get a little bit more? So I think it's great, but I think some of these kids that are deciding to ball out, or that are balling out and have the potential to go to the NFL and are eligible to go to the NFL, I think they either need to go to the NFL
Mm-hmm.
or try to transfer a bit earlier. so that they
100%.
have the opportunity to prove themselves a bit earlier, rather than waiting so long. It's just odd to me that he is 25, 26, something like that,
It
and
says
he's
20 24 years old.
oh, so he'll be
He
25.
turns
Okay,
24. He turns 24 this coming July. So well, yeah, he turns 24 in July. So he's 23, going to turn 24 in July.
so he'll be 23. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's just odd to me that somebody that old collegiately, and it's not old, but when we're talking about college football,
I mean,
historically,
I finished my senior season at 21, so that's old.
yeah, that's
When
what
it
I'm
comes to,
saying.
but
So
see, I also finished my senior season of basketball at 24 because I went to the NFL, came back, got my degree, played basketball for that year, and I was 23 years old whenever I graduated. So yeah,
right, but what I'm saying, the average age of athlete, no matter what it is, when they've exhausted all their eligibility, is usually 22.
yep,
And
between 18 and
so
22. Yep.
because of COVID, um, the NCAA allowed people to have additional year of eligibility to make up for what they may have lost um, on the field or on the court. And so
Hmm.
now you have the average age is going up. I don't know how they get past that moving forward because I don't know. I'm sure some way it'll be waned out or something like that. But long story short, if I was him, I would just went to the league. But if you can go to Notre Dame and make what a NFL vet would make, which is $1 million or 400, whatever the case is. I forgot what the NFL vet minimum is, but if you can make that for a year, then maybe it's worth it because
Maybe it's worth it.
maybe not saying he won't make it to the league, but maybe you don't make it to the league, but you in turn got money because you decided to transfer, still be in college. He's probably going to take one or two classes as a graduate,
Hmm.
not really have that much stress on him, and live a life of
Luxury for that
luxury
year and all
for
they got
that
to do is
year.
focus on football and all they got to do is
Yeah.
because I think a lot of these players because I was
No
reading in here
bills.
too, zero, but I was reading in
Yeah.
this article too about the guys who were entering the transfer portal. Bruh, Oklahoma is losing three of their receivers into the
Yeah. And
transfer portal.
they're probably gonna go to USC. I don't know for sure, but you know.
So it's crazy. But just to get back to the Wake Forest quarterback's name is Sam Hartman. Just to get back to him, he had a really good completion percentage at 63%, 3,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, and is going to leave Wake Forest as the all-time leading passer in his senior season to go play a graduate year over at Notre Dame. And I think a lot of these guys are doing this, number one, because these bigger schools get a little bit more exposure. Notre Dame gets a little bit more national exposure than Wake Forest gets. So with him being
Right.
an actual good quarterback, if he goes to Notre Dame and balls out like he did at Wake Forest, if he was looking at being the fifth quarterback brought off the board, he might jump up to number two or number one if he balls out. So
Right.
that's a little bit more exposure for him. He balled out at Notre Dame, that prestigious university, that prestigious
They'll
program.
play in bigger games,
They're
and
playing
because
bigger
they're
games.
independent, they'll play the USCs, they'll play the
The
whatever, the
Alabamas, they'll
Texas.
play the
Right.
Texases, and you know what I'm saying. So they'll play those. They'll play Michigan because that's the rivalry
But
game. You know what I'm saying.
what's
So
funny, and not to cut you off, but I wish that fans could choose one or two games that colleges had to play that year, because you always see it in the NFL where a trade has happened or somebody decides to go to another team.
I see what
That
you're
next
saying.
year they
That next
put
year they
that
play
team
that
on
team on the
that
schedule.
they play
Yeah,
that team. I kind of wish that would happen just to see that would be
but
must see TV,
Notre
especially
Dame.
with all the transfers. They're
Yeah, but
in the
Notre Dame has
ACC,
the
so
no, not
well,
the
they're not
football
in the
program.
ACC.
Football
Well, they're
program is still
not in the
independent.
ACC, but right. They're
Yeah.
not in the ACC, but they're obligated to play, or they're contractually obligated to play 5 or 6 games of ACC teams every year.
Wake Forest is
So
going to be on
it
there,
it very well could be that Wake Forest, it's their turn to play Wake Forest this year, because I don't think they played them this year. So
bruh.
that would be interesting. But I
That
I,
would be.
I wish that could happen across. all transfer portals, where if somebody left a school that was a star and they decided to go to another school, that school that they left was on the schedule. Because I mean, you just want that's good
That would be
TV.
exciting. It's
And
good
most
TV. It would
times,
be definitely
yeah,
be exciting. It would
yeah,
definitely be exciting.
yeah,
But it's
yeah,
so many universities, bro, and so many kids jumping into the portal. It's not like free agency where it's like 100 people. There are
right,
thousands and thousands and thousands
thousands,
of kids. So it would be hard to
right,
manage in that part. But I understand what you're saying. That would be primetime TV to see
yeah,
Sam Hartman at Notre Dame play against Wake Forest. That game would
right,
literally be on national TV, probably an 8 o'clock game at night. For sure, for sure.
100%,
100%. So that
100%.
would be dope. But I think I like the transfer portal. You know what I'm saying? I think it's dope for a lot of the kids who I honestly think it's dope for the kids who are those 3 and 4-star players who aren't getting that run that they think they deserve at the university that they
Hmm.
chose on signing day. So say it's
Yep.
like a 4-star kid that isn't getting the burn. He's just playing special teams, or he might have got 10 catches for 100 yards throughout the season, but he feels like he's better than that. He can utilize the transfer portal, go somewhere we can get a little bit more playing time and possibly show what he can really do in a program that utilizes him a little bit more or might need him a little bit more. So I think that's
Yeah.
dope in that sense. But in a sense of like Sam, no disrespect to him, Mr. Hartman, just go to the league, bro. Like, just go ahead and go to the league.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to be the 5th quarterback off the board, you're probably gonna go second round. You're still gonna get tens of millions of dollars. So just go to the
Hmm.
league. Just go to the league. You'll get more and living your dream right out of Wake Forest, in opposed to taking that 1 year to just go to use a graduate year to go to Notre Dame and possibly boost your stock, which I hope happens. But it's like almost tomato, bro, to me, honestly. Almost tomato.
Yeah.
But I like the
Yeah.
portal though.
Yeah. No, I 100% like the portal. I like the NIL, which stands for name, image, and likeness, for those that don't know. So athletes are able to profit off of their name, image, and likeness within college sports, which they historically have not had the opportunity to do. I like
Mm-hmm.
both of those. However, I think if it continues to be kind of chaotic like it is,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the NCAA likes it. I see them as not liking it, and they'll probably revise some of the rules for how name, image, and likeness is handled, and then
Mm-hmm.
also maybe the transfer portal as well. I don't know. I don't see them doing anything to the transfer portal, but the name, image, and likeness, they'll probably do something with
Tinker
it
a little bit.
because
They'll probably tinker to some.
they'll they'll tinker it. They'll definitely tinker it because they didn't envision it being used how it's being used now. Like I said
Right.
earlier, their initial thought was advertising dollars, or
Mm-hmm.
athletes being able to use their name, image, and likeness for companies and businesses to use them in their advertisement, stuff like that, not for boosters to put money together to pull players into schools, which I still really don't have an issue with, but I don't think that was the NCAA's intent when they created that rule.
I don't think it was either. But I mean, like my final wisdom, the portal is dope. The kids are using it to their advantage for sure.
Yep.
Trying to maximize their opportunity and maximize the money that they get off of their NIL. I do see that the NIL will probably get tinkered, and it'll probably be like they'll probably keep it from being. They'll probably eventually take it out of the boosters' hands and put it back into the university's hands, or put it back into the NCAA's hands itself to actually do it what it was intended for, which was the advertising dollars. But I mess with it, man. I mess with it. I mean, kids, if you out there, you're listening, you got aspirations, and you want to, you're going to a big time university, or even if you're going to a HBCU and you feel like you got an opportunity to do something better, live your dream, bro. If you want to go from NCCU to NC State, which is right down the street, and you want to use the portal, man. Just make sure you're being smart with it, and make sure you understand the ups and downs and the pros and cons to it. Because if you have scholarship at NCCU and you don't get picked up at NC State, NCCU can probably take that scholarship from you. So just know what you're doing before you actually go through it, and take that bet on yourself to do
Yep.
something a little bit better in the better program.
Yep.
I have rarely seen Ed Reed talk. No,
Yeah.
for real, like.
Yeah. So I think that they are concerned.
Mhm.
But I think they should be happy. So I think HBCU loyalists should be happy
100%.
with this trend.